Insurance. You have a car, you're likely going to break it. You have a house, you're likely going to get damage to it. You have teeth, you're going to get rot. You have health, someday you'll have no health. So what can we do to... Well, we can't avoid these tragedies, and when these tragedies come, we have to manage them. So what kind of approaches can we do? Well, the first approach would be, sure, if it happens, it happens. Okay, I crashed my car. All right. You know that feeling when you ding somebody else's car and you say to yourself, to pay for the mechanic, I have to sort out my own problems. I'm going to have to sort out the other car. I'm going to have to deal with that. And what if it's more than a scratch? Like, what if I accidentally hurt somebody? What if somebody says, ow, my neck? You know, it can get very complicated very quickly and very expensive. The next best approach to this problem would be set some money aside. Okay, have a nice lump sum of money sitting in the corner somewhere, earning interest, so that if the day happens, I can just delve into it. And that's fine, and that's to be encouraged, actually. However, what happens if you have an accident in your car and you suddenly get ill? Or maybe the house, the wind has blown the roof off your house as well. You know, too many issues, too many tragedies suddenly come upon you and you're out. You know, you can't get past that. So what's the better alternative? What's the next best thing? It's insurance. And what is insurance? Insurance is basically where you undertake a contract with an insurance broker, and subject to terms and conditions, if a tragedy strikes, you'll get something back, something towards the cost, something to alleviate the pain. Is it perfect? No, it's not. It's not designed to 100% cover you completely. It's not, because it's just unlimited. There's unlimited costs associated to that particular tragedy. So you have to accept that. It's a fact of life. Is there anything better that we can have? What's the alternative to insurance? Well, we could leave it to the government. We could say, look, set up a scheme there. If anything happens to our health or our wealth, and by the way, it's called PRSI. So, you know, that's fine. PRSI was set up 20, 30, 40, more than 20 years, 40, maybe 50 years ago. But there's just one problem with with depending on the government. And we're discovering that in recent weeks with the Davies stockbrokers. And you can understand how it kind of happens. You know, when an institution is set up 20, 30 years ago, and it was set up with the best of intentions, in the national interest, do everybody proud. And it did. However, after maybe 10, 15 years, it could have been during the boom times, whatever, something happened. Maybe there was a snafu at the top level and they had to hide something, and it kind of got a bit out of control, and it was all hushed up and swept away and kept quiet. And successive senior positions, as more people come into the job and they realize, oh, so this is what happens when something goes wrong. All right, we just sweep it under the carpet, stay quiet about it. And that was probably the culture for 20, 30 years. And as a result of that, we all learn, finally, after a court case that was started back in 1993, finally we realised that the senior positions were not to be trusted. They broke their fiduciary duties, and they're just cold hard fraudsters. So, how do we deal with that? Well, as we can see, the government are not stepping in too deeply. The regulators that are supposed to be overwatching in the compliance, they are kind of, they're not exactly pushing the boat out in terms of arresting anybody, because nobody's been arrested. And of course, on the Garda side, they're all kind of standing back and waiting to see who's going to start what, And it's crazy, and it looks absolutely ridiculous. And I was just listening to David McWilliams' podcast earlier today, where he had an American regulator absolutely laugh at our situation. I felt so ashamed. And so what can we do about that? Well, one thing that I gleaned from this US regulator was the situation that we find ourselves now is pretty much like the situation that was in the US 20, 30 years ago. Okay, when we look at the medical system over in America, the first thing you realize is it's ginormous. It's many times bigger than the Irish medical system, and if you look at it closer, it has pretty much the same issues as we do. There's a lot of administrators in there. There's a lot of paperwork shifting up and down the place, and yeah, there's fraud in there as well. The only difference is, well, there's a lot of differences. The first thing that I notice is that it's not just one plan for everybody. They have Medicaid for most people, but they also have hundreds of other different types of plans. For example, you have the HMOs, which are your health maintenance organisations, where, for example, if you live nearby a hospital, the hospital will offer you discounts to visit them every now and again. You have PPOs, which are preferred provider organisations, where, for example, if you live in Washington and your family lives in Florida, the dentist or the doctors, if they happen to be on the same PPO plan, then you get savings out of that. I lost track. You have, in the military, you have TRICARE, which covers all personnel, regardless of where they are around the world. You have union plans. For example, policemen have a union plan, which is a comprehensive plan which covers their health and their dental and their vision and everything. You also have not-for-profit plans. For example, Delta Dental over in the States, they provide dental insurance, not for profit, obviously. You have Medicare, Medicaid. You have the Obamacare Act plans, which basically covers disadvantaged people who don't have dental plans. And one of my favorites would be the COBRA plan, where, for example, if I was made redundant and my child happened to be getting orthodontic treatment done, doesn't mean that we've lost the plan. This plan actually steps in, and for a period of 18 months, it'll cover my child's orthodontics while I sort out the next year's plans. Over in the States, it's very complex. And so what happens if over in the States now, they, for example, every time you visit a dentist or a doctor, you have to pay what's called a deductible, which is basically you pay $25 or $50, just the initial cost to going in. The plan covers most of whatever it is, whether it's dental or dental or vision or health, and whatever is left over, you pay what's left over. And it'll and that's how it works over in the States. If you're not happy with your claim, you can always apply to the insurance commissioners with a grievance, and the insurance company, or the insurance commissioner, will actually instigate investigations, and they'll call in regulators and investigators, and if they do find fraud, which they do, a policeman is called in, and they arrest the guy, and they strip him of his assets or whatever is taken off him. And that's what's ahead of us. in the future, I believe. Um, where am I at? Fairly soon, we'll get a new government, and they're going to have a mandate. And when we come out of lockdown, obviously, one of their main goals would be to have a robust, resilient medical system. Now, there's two ways they can go about doing that. They're either going to get funds from Europe, which is going to continue all this public, whatever they call it, or they can actually encourage private insurance companies to get more involved, encourage more insurance companies into the market, so we can all start getting lower premiums and starting to see the benefit of lower costs as well. Because that's what private insurance companies do as well. They look at the costs as well, and they try to manage the costs, bring down the costs. If you bring down the costs, then you get more profit, or you're going to get better. You're going to get better situations. Also, in terms of medical private insurance, for example, during the lockdown, you saw the likes of the Bon Secures and the BlackRock Clinic. They're privately run hospitals, and I do believe they opened their wards for us during the lockdown. Wouldn't it be terrible if we had no private hospitals in the country at all? Would we be in a worse state as we are? So it is vital. When you take out a health insurance plan, or a dental insurance, or a vision insurance plan, you're not just looking after yourself. You're looking after everybody else that's in that plan as well. So it's absolutely, you're not really, you should not look at insurance as an expense. You should really see it as an investment. And that the same kind of goes for the car insurance and the house insurance as well. So what has this all got to do with with Military Enthusiast Club? Okay, well, when I think about it, right, one of our core values is military grade fitness for life. And if we were a recognised club, the likes of Leia, for example, they would actually, they'd actually give you subsidy towards your subscription to membership to the club. All right, and the same probably goes for car insurance as well. For example, if we were a military enthusiast club that was big into driving, and if we were to prove to the insurance company that we are socially responsible, safe driving, and we promote safe driving on the road and safe road users, then we should be entitled to get some sort of discount off our driving insurance premiums. Another way of looking at it, for example, if we were I wouldn't say a large club, if we had a network of clubs, if there was a whole scatter of clubs in the area, what we could actually do is we could approach the insurance company as a group, and we can say, look, we're fine, fit, healthy young people. We want to get lower premiums on our health insurance, and they'll give us a better, a more discounted rate of insurance. And the same would probably apply to driving as well, and whatever other opportunities that may be out there. So there's always advantages to insurance, and there is a lot of opportunities out there for insurance and for clubs in general. Another thing I noticed actually, a couple of weeks back, the GAA posted losses on their accounts, and one of those big figures that they had was the injuries fund, where basically if you get injured on the pitch, there's a fund there to cover you. And when I first thought about that, I kind of said to myself, well, there is a better way of doing that, and maybe the GAA are missing a trick there. For example, with the number of members that are in the GAA, surely to God, they could go to a healthcare or a health or a dental plan or a vision plan and say, look, we've got a massive number of members in our group. If we undertake to pay a premium to you every year, could you provide our members with health insurance or dental insurance or vision insurance? So there's an exceptionally large opportunity there, and I'll leave it with you there to think about it tonight. Take care.